Okay, so in 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart Talks, and I'm your host, Yen Chong from Heart to Heart. So today is another very special episode. We usually get locals, local photographer, videographer, and other wedding industry experts to share their thoughts and ideas. But today we have another overseas guest. He's none other than Eric Floberg. You must be asking, who the hell is he? Why is he in this podcast? But he's really special to me, because he is based in Chicago, and he's a Chicago-based photographer, filmmaker that loves teaching. And that's how I actually know him though, like through YouTube. He's teaching a lot of things about how to make a career out of it into the industry. And that's how I have a foothold into this whole industry, have the confidence that he actually built up accordingly. So he is also document his adventures, and that's how I actually know his life, his background, a little bit of it here and there. And he loves a lot of things. That's why he listed on his website actually. He loves pizza, running, Instagram, La La Land, adventure, you name it, he got it. But Eric, I just want to kind of ask you a very quick question, right? Yeah. If all these things you have listed, cheesecake, film and designs and everything, could you choose, if I can let you choose one thing from all of it, which one would it be and why?
It's family. It's got to be family. If we're gonna do superficial things, that's a different answer, and I'll give that one after family. But yeah, family is the closest thing in all of everything that I do. The reason that I do the work that I do is to support my family, is to spend more time with my family. So that's definitely number one. Outside of the cheesy rom-com answer, romantic comedy answers, pizza.
100% pizza.
Which flavor?
I will just
pepperoni. All day, every day, I will eat pepperoni pizza. That's my favorite.
Damn, you have a very strong belief in that.
Oh yeah, especially Chicago deep dish. That's the style of pizza where I'm from. It's like really super thick, tons of cheese, tomato sauce on top, butter crust.
Wonderful.
Chef's kiss. Oh my.
Exactly.
I guess, okay, that's all the things that I love and stuff. I think you actually wrote very little, so I'm just gonna pass the baton to you and kind of have your own introduction, just in case I miss anything. So we just share a little bit of what you do and what you love to do and stuff like that.
Yeah, so let's see, I live in Chicago in the United States with my family, my wife and 3 kids, and I started a company. How long ago? Oh my goodness, 7 years ago, officially 6 years ago. Really started photographing and filming people and events and weddings about 10 years ago. And that was because it was born out of doing videography and making stupid little videos with my friends in school, in junior high and high school and into college, university. And yeah, from there, it just kind of jumped into passion, as it does a lot of people who kind of pick up a camera and want to dabble in it and try it. And then I have friends asking me to photograph and film their weddings and their sister's wedding or whoever's wedding, and getting secondhand referrals from those people and just starting to see a snowball grow. So from a business perspective, that's where it all kind of happened. When I went to college, to university, I studied to be a teacher, and I became a teacher in 2013, all the way until 2016. I imagined that I would be teaching for about 10 years before I could switch to full-time into my creative business, photography and filmmaking. And it happened, really it could have happened in 2 years, but it happened in 3. I took that 3rd year just for more financial stability, more money, because we just had our first kid at that point. But jumped to full-time with my business in 2016. Subsequently after that, doing weddings full-time pretty much, and some other portraiture, commercial work here and there. I started making YouTube videos in 2018. And quickly, within another 3 years, that has become half of my job as well as a handful of other things that I've kind of started up and started running. So I guess you could call me a full-time creative. because it's not just wedding photography and filmmaking anymore. It's YouTube content, it's education, it's a couple other YouTube channels. So yeah, it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, actually something that I like about craft, or something that can like what you always said on your YouTube channel or Patreon, lean on to something that makes you creative, or lean on something that you are good at. I felt that your way of crafting your stories feels like a mind of a photographer, and you frame things, intentionally frames things, like, and you're able to translate that into video is something that is mind-blowing for me. It's like I never thought you could do that. But if I can let you choose between doing photos for the rest of our lives or video for the rest of our life, which one would you actually prefer?
It's a great question, and one that's been asked of me a lot in my career so far. But I think really I've kind of gone back and forth throughout the years. Oh man, yeah, I'm conflicted now. I was gonna say video, but now I'm conflicted because recently I've just been really getting into film photography as a medium for my personal life, and I really, really deeply enjoy that. So I guess I'll have to give a cheating answer and say, if it were for my personal life, it would be photography, and it would be specifically film photography, honestly. But if it were for storytelling and creativity, it would be filmmaking, 100%. Because there's so much more you can do to play to people's emotions and connect with people more through the medium of film, where pretty much the only sense you're appealing to in photography is people's sight, and the difference in filmmaking is sight and sound. And so I talk about it a lot, like in my workshops and stuff, of trying to appeal to as many senses as you can in your artistry and storytelling. And so you're just at default able to do that in video more. And so that's why I love it so much. It's so much more immersive. You can bring people into a story. You can bring people into a location or somewhere that they're not familiar with very quickly by sights and sounds. So I hope that was a good enough answer.
Oh, that is a super in-depth one, and I really love how you managed to balance it, because I kind of resonate a little bit in terms of like splitting it into two ways, like the videos on the creative side and the photos on your family side. I felt like that was a line that need to be drawn, because for me, I might say I'm like a lazy creative in terms of my personal life. So I actually prefer, because I'm like a full-time, videographer, filmmaker. I've been creating videos for my clients, for my couples. And when it comes to like my own personal life, I prefer something that is another medium for me to sharpen my skills. So I actually resonate more on photos of my personal life too, like just snapping it. And it's faster to kind of churn out the product, and it doesn't take too long. In terms of like video, you have to, you have to establish the scene and everything. You have to build up the story. You have to find the emotions. But photos is like right that instant, that one photo could really tell what you need to tell. And I think that's the beauty of photos. Like you only have one frame to tell a story, and that for me is very, it's like a release of I would so called like a dead weight for me, because if I keep creating videos and videos, I'll just kind of get stale out and just don't feel like touching the video department of my brain. I just want to kind of touch on other aspects of it. Even if it's not photography, it could be like going out for a swim, going for a jog. I think that really motivates you to go back to film again if once you're ready, your mind is at the right state. Yeah, rather than you just keep creating and creating and creating. It's just quite daunting task for me as a full-time creative.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I didn't say digital photography, because so much of my work is digital photography, and it's so rare that I pick up one of my DSLRs and photograph my family or photograph my personal life. It's very strange to me to do that, and I do it from time to time, and it just feels like I'm not doing things correctly, and I'm not happy with how the images look, which is really interesting and weird.
You did once, right? Like I remember you document
Yeah.
once with your family, having like the kitchen island, and you're just like filming with like your huge camera gig and everything with
Yeah.
the lights. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's like some next level rigging of a set. This
Yeah.
is crazy. Yeah, but for you right now, like right in 2021, going 2022 next year, what's that one? Maybe you can share something that is for you is the most exciting thing that you're gonna do or you have been doing right now this year.
Oh, great question. This year so far for me has just been, it's been so mind-blowing seeing what has come to fruition, all the things I've kind of been waiting for. 2020 was really kind of the year where I was going to ramp up a lot of education, new creative endeavors, all these plans, and none of them were able to happen due to obvious reasons. And so that just took a lot of patience. In that process in 2020, I had been running for the past 3-4 years and running marathons, but I took it very, very seriously last year and came up with one of my fastest marathon times so far in trying to run the marathon. But after that, it was kind of this refocus of, all right, well, we're going into off season. My studio mates are like willing to come alongside me and help me with new projects. And so we started planning all the things that we're going to roll out in 2021. So all the things that are happening this year, I'm doing much more sponsored and integrated content on my YouTube channel, which is funding a lot of other projects. And I'm splitting commercial work with one of my studio mates, Mike, who, we've already been to a few different places this year. We're going to another place next week to do commercial video work. We started doing a lot more film photography and developing it and scanning it ourselves at our studio, and making a whole episodic series on my YouTube channel called The Film Diaries. And then we also, Mike and I started a new finance channel, which we are very, very excited about, which really kind of popped off when we announced it. And we have a ton of huge plans for that. And on top of that, my other friend Steven and I started a new podcast called Rally Caps, which we are also very excited about. And the only reason I was able to do that last one is because Steven made the commitment that he was going to be producing that entire podcast. And all I would have to do is just kind of show up and talk and ask questions to the guests and interact and do all that. And then he was like, yep, I see this as an opportunity to interact with a lot of, big creatives and entrepreneurs. And he was wanting to, partner with me to build something together. So all of that is happening right now. And everyone keeps asking me, with all this stuff kind of floating around, how are you balancing all of that? And the truth and the answer I keep giving is community, is the people around me motivating and supporting me in all these endeavors and all of these things. So I have an assistant who does emailing and is rolling out, PDFs for education and helping me stay on task. Her name is Nami. She's amazing. So she helps with the administrative part of my business. I have Mike, who's kind of keeping me in check with all of our commercial work and helping film all of YouTube, everything. And then Steven, who's running the whole podcast as well. And so I feel very much like we're building a strong team and doing all these things together. And while I still have a ton on my plate with what I'm doing, they're all there to help support me, and I'm able to lean on them when I need to. So that's all the stuff that's happening this year so far.
Full platter of things that you have right now on your plate. I have no idea how you're gonna balance it, because I struggle on balancing my wedding works and corporate projects, because they are two different extreme areas of to test your creative skills. And sometimes when you're in the mood in editing your wedding films and stories, I personally don't like to get interrupted with like commercial projects in between. So I try to clear the wedding side first, then later I go back to maybe the following day I'll be in the mood in going to complete my commercial projects. So I think that's how I balance it. But I feel that right now I agree with you. I think the community part is important. Like speak to the fellow maybe editors or like videographers that maybe do the same line as you. I personally actually hired like one or two editors to help me through the commercial projects while I'm still in the wedding, edits, just to make sure that I still hit the deadlines and everything. But it really pays off, by having other creatives kind of like, share their ideas with you or put their own creative ideas into your commercial projects. I think that really make it more special rather than you have to like, put in all your brain juice on all the projects that you are doing. As much as I love to edit, I can't be in that zone for too long. If not, it's just gonna get a meltdown and just gonna feel
Yep.
shitty after like every project that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The more and more I do commercial work, the more and more I realize that a team and working with other people is the way to go. It's so much better. It's so much more motivating. Even just lugging around the equipment that you need for more commercial stuff, for the production quality being raised that much higher. It's so nice to just have more hands in a space to like move actual gear, and it like motivates you to want to try something new or something harder because you have all this support. You don't have to do it alone.
So the next question that I have is like, this is wind back down to weddings again. I'm very interested to know like what is your most meaningful or the most emotional wedding you have shot, and share a little bit of the story of it.
Oh man. Okay. It's really hard to pinpoint one. There are plenty of really good ones. Oh man, that's difficult. I think really the most impactful one out of all of them is a story that happened beyond the wedding day and what the wedding actually meant. So in 2017, I went to a workshop and learned from Ben Heisch and Jonas Peterson, just two titans of the wedding photography industry. And I really came out of that workshop understanding that I needed to figure out what my why was, what my purpose was behind shooting, instead of just chasing travel and chasing all the vibey, cool weddings, but rather empathize with the clients that I do have the pleasure of, capturing and photographing and filming. And so immediately after that workshop, I had a wedding that prior to it I wasn't that excited about because it wasn't a quote unquote cool wedding, and it was a pretty typical average one, that similar to a lot that I've shot in the past. And it was an incredibly emotional day, like so much more emotional than really anything I'd ever shot before. And so after coming off that workshop, I had focused so much on the emotion of that day. Now that's not the one I'm talking about, but this is really where this idea of just changing my heart and my perspective was. And so I photographed and my team filmed. So we did both a wedding summer in 2017, and the day was kind of chaotic. The bride was just like kind of all over the place. Dress wasn't fitting. She wasn't happy with her bouquet. Like she just wasn't very pleased with a lot of things, and she was taking it out on people and all this stuff. And it was just like, it was hard. It was really hard to be around her being that frustrated, and still kind of having this mentality. I just kept shooting. I kept a smile on my face. I kept serving them. I kept doing what I signed up to do, making sure that all of it was captured in the way it deserved to be. And so the day just kept unfolding with a lot of frustration. The wedding party wasn't listening. This whole, like during one moment, the wedding party wasn't listening. They weren't following us. She just kind of yelled at them to come over. And I was like, you know what? They're going to be here in a second. Let me just take a nice portrait of you right here in front of these bushes. Like the light's beautiful. Your bouquet is here. It's beautiful. Took a few awesome portraits of her there. Just kind of gave her a second to calm down. And then she just like really enjoyed her time with her sister and the wedding party after that. She came up to me at the reception And she just came up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I've been such a bitch all day." And I was like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, I freaked out on my wedding day. I know how it felt." And like, I get it. And even her mom like came up to us and said that as well. Like, "I'm sorry she's been acting so nuts, you know?" And she straight up just apologized. She's like, I've been so stressed out about everything today, and I realized I should have just been enjoying it. And I just want to let you know that you and the team are like our favorite vendors of all of this, the whole wedding. And we just wanted to let you know and just enjoy the rest of the night as you shoot, and like feel free to stay and all those nice things. And she had this beautiful moment where she gave a speech with her husband and like thanked her mom for putting it all together, the wedding, because her mom was a significant part of helping putting it together. Just really beautiful moment. I was able to capture where she's blowing kisses. They're blowing kisses to each other. And the really, really difficult part of this whole story is that she passed away a year after the wedding, literally on their 1-year anniversary. And it was completely out of nowhere, unexpected. And I got a message from her sister that said she had suddenly passed. And we wanted to do everything we could to be at the funeral. And so me and my family went, and there were just so many people at the funeral. There was just no way we could get up to her family and, you know, give our condolences. So when we were there, we saw like the portrait I took of her in front of that bush was, you know, everywhere at the funeral. And they were playing the wedding film in the other room. And as I was leaving, we ran into her sister, and in tears, she like hugged me and said, like, "You gave us one of the greatest gifts our family could have ever received, and the last photographs that we'll ever have of her. And I just can't thank you enough for doing that for us." So, yeah, it's really hard for me to get through that story without full on melting down and sobbing. But the significance of the intersecting moments of me understanding what this job meant and what my purpose was, and still serving a client even when it was hard, met with so quickly what those photos meant to that family, was the most affirming thing in my career. And in absolute tragedy, still understanding the importance of what our job can mean to so many families and the people that we serve. And so, yeah, I know that's heavy, and I know that's not one that I share very often, but it's definitely the one that has impacted me the most in my career, and I hope impacts other people too. So,
yeah, I think you have shared a glimpse of it. I'm not sure. I think you have posted it on Patreon on like how you calm her down during the photo session, right? Like when she's having a meltdown. I think that was the couple you're talking about.
that was a different one. Yeah.
Meltdown, another bridezilla. Oh, okay. Understand. Yeah, I think not. I mean, every creative have to understand that not all weddings will be like the wedding to shoot for that year, or you know, for your career. But I guess something that you have said that resonate the most, even before this podcast, when I'm watching your videos, is fight for the moments for your couples. Yeah, because you never know this kind of how much impact you can actually create for them for the years to come. And having that is like a superpower that we have, to record or to document their most important day of their lives, or one of their most important day of their lives. It's really about the family, it's about the bonding. You know, wedding is not just about the two individuals, but it's two families, you know, merging into one. And I think that is something that that you taught me a lot. I always tell the people that are shooting with me on the day that we should always fight for the moments, because you know, sometimes when we shoot in a wedding, it's like 8 hours long, 10 hours long. We will get fatigued, right? And I think situations like that, all the more that we have to remind ourselves to, hey, let's just go for the final dash and capture the moments that's needed to be captured, so that at least we won't regret not capturing something that we might have missed it because we are just a little bit fatigued. And I think there's something that we need to kind of like, I would say, suck it up and fight for it, because they pay you for that reason. They want the emotions and the moments to be captured. And that's something that is, like, I feel that as a creative, or at least a wedding filmmaker or a photographer, should adhere to, so that you won't live the rest of your life regret not getting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just laying it all out on the line and putting all of your effort into it because it's worth it. Like, I agree. It's like you don't want to walk away feeling regret because you were being lazy in some moment, or you were trying to adhere to kind of what the norm is, or what everybody else does, but rather going out of your way and being a different voice and like doing what serves them best so that they have that memory, because it just takes that much more effort out of you to just walk those extra 10 steps or go around the corner into the other room and snap a few photos,
Another question, maybe the second last question, will be like, maybe share your process. Like, maybe a new couple just came in and inquire about your work. They say they love your work, etc., etc. Maybe share with us how you craft their stories, or what kind of questions that you usually ask them before you shoot. And maybe your editing process. I'm actually more interested in the editing process. Like, how do you actually start to edit a wedding film?
Yeah. Well, bringing them on and doing a specific story that caters to a couple, I'm always on board to do crazy things and shooting outside of the wedding day and all sorts of fun and exciting, engaging things for the film's sake. A lot of wedding videographers just kind of like we were just saying, we'll just do the standard. We'll be like, okay, well, my contract says 8 hours, so I'll show up at this time and I'm leaving at this time on the wedding day, and that's it. And then whatever I get on that day, which is fair, like that's fine. You can run your business that way. I'm not interested in running my business that way. I'm much more interested in charging a lot more to then have flexibility to create things that are going to be really impactful for them and really different for my portfolio as well. And so in that sense, it's a really mutually beneficial thing. And a lot of couples that come to me and see the films that I've crafted kind of want that same thing. And so when I open it up to them in a meeting, I always tell them that it is up to them to kind of expose themselves and their story and open up to me so that I can do what I'm capable of doing to tell the story. And as much as they're willing to open up to me, that's how creative I can get with it. And so I'll ask questions like, I want to hear your entire story, and please don't leave anything out. Just lay it on me. I don't care how long it takes. Just go for it. And in that process, I tend to connect with them on certain things like having a sibling or getting married already, and if they have nieces and nephews and I have kids, or they run because I run, or we both love deep dish pizza, or like any of that stuff, or we've been to LA and we like this food. All of that stuff helps me resonate with them and connect with them. But hearing how the proposal happened, or hearing how they met in high school, or hearing that one of their grandparents was an integral part of their life, those little things start planting seeds and ideas in my head of how I can then incorporate those important things that are important to them, and then figuring out how we could maybe integrate those things into a film. So this is a lot easier for me to do with people that I already know pretty well, which is kind of becoming half of my clientele. It's like people that I already have relationships with, and they're still willing to, invest the money and pay for me to film the day. But even me just throwing out ideas like a film I did 2 years ago, Mark and Molly, where I went to their cabin up in upstate New York.
I love that film. Sorry to interject. I love that film. That's like that was the one that I was like been raving about. Every time I watch it, it's just like, oh my God.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. It took a lot of work. It was a lot of creative energy. It was very hot. I sweat through my entire button-up shirt that day on the wedding day. But we went to their cabin 2 days after, because I know, like, I follow Mark. He's a wedding photographer as well, but like I know they have this cabin. I know they spend a lot of time there. I know it's beautiful. There's a lake, there's mountains, there's all this stuff. And I know it's the most special place on earth to them. So to me, I look at that and I know that story, and I've seen the pictures and all that. And that could be as simple as you just following the couple on Instagram, you know, following them on social media and seeing what's important to them. But I saw that and I was like, I can't film this wedding without going there. Like, we need to make this happen. We need to go up there and film a whole session up there. So like, we got in a canoe and we made the fire inside the cabin, and they cooked breakfast together, and they said their vows again in front of the fire. And it's not that a lot of people ask me, like, do you storyboard a wedding film before you do it? Do you plan out, you know, the sequencing? And I never do, actually. And I guess a lot of this resonates with kind of Casey Neistat's approach, the infamous YouTuber. I watched a video recently where he talks about how, to him, the story is entirely in the edit, where he really cares about just documenting, just being there, being in the moment, fighting for the moments, fighting for creative scenes, just doing your best to show up and to show up creatively. So show up for the moments and film them the best you can. And then outside of the moments when things are dull, like, get creative with how you can set the scene, how you can transition from one place to another, like never taking time off when you're on the job shooting, so that you have a wide breadth of content to build a really robust and beautiful story in the edit. And sometimes when you realize you have certain assets, you get creative ideas in the edit. So for them, I mean, I knew I wanted to like have them redo their vows in front of the fire as well, just because I was like, if you ever get the chance to have them do their vows twice, do it. Because like, it's just like, you have a fail safe and a backup if you screwed up, like, you know, audio on the wedding day or whatever. But then you get this creative opportunity to kind of mix and match, going from one place to the other, you know? And it's just simple things like that. Like, if you just spend another day with them doing something and getting audio from that day, or capturing them doing something that they love, it's a really simple thing to do, but it's really profound in the edit, in the story, to jump back and forth between present and on the wedding day, and either the past before they were married or even after they're married, and kind of have a weaving timeline that goes in and out. It can be really impactful. So it takes me like a full work week to edit a wedding film, and I can usually only edit about a minute at a time, a minute a day, like a minute of creative edit a day, because it's so much creative energy. I just get so burnt out so quickly. But yeah, there's a million things I could say about it. You know, balancing music in it too, especially for Mark and Molly too. Fortunately, their first dance song was on Music Bed, and I was able to license it for their film, which is crazy impactful as well. But yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. I like hearing their story and letting them open up to me. And maybe that's over drinks, or maybe that's over an hour phone call, or having dinner with my family, so that they can be in a more comfortable environment to open up and tell me more about themselves, so that I can be creative in going after assets in video and audio that could be really impactful in telling those nuances in their story.
Yeah, I think I learned that from a few photographers and videographers, like how they bond with their couples. I think in Singapore we are quite lucky because Singapore is just this small, like really, really small. Like from one end of Singapore to the other end of Singapore, you can literally drive within 2 hours. Yeah. So it's really that small. So we have the luxury to actually meet all the couples, if it's possible. Then usually it's like right after their work, then we can just like, we actually meet our couples in a cafe or having a dinner, and just to kind of vibe. And this is a practice that I started because I heard like you're not the only one that told me that. I think at least 5 or 6 creatives has been doing that in their own career, and they find that very, very helpful. And when I have that, I think I started this approach, and I feel that I can create much more impactful films. Like I have one example was like they shared with me like a certain visual that they are looking for, like in their own wedding film, and they have certain milestones that they wanted to highlight, And I think when they shared with me their love story in that sense, it helped me help me structure the film much better. Like I know which part, what kind of song that will be needed, um, which 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 place that we can actually shoot. Maybe certain cafes that have like meaning to them. For us, like food centers in Singapore, they always eat a certain particular food that they always go for, and we were like, let's just go there and like film you guys, buying the food and like, have a good time there. And because that is the space where when the bride is sad or like having emotional issues, because the bride have a little bit of depression in the past, so they'll just go every time she's depressed, she'll go and eat this particular food, even though she doesn't like to eat that. She just like to eat shitty food when she feels shitty.
Yeah.
So the guy is just like, oh, okay. And all along he has been thinking like she like to eat that food when she feels sad and down. But actually it's not. It's just that she just like to eat really distasteful food because she's just feeling so bad. And end up both of them actually don't like the food. But because of this whole thing, they have been eating that for like the past like 7 years of their relationship. And that becomes an integral part of their relationship. And that for me is like, oh my God, it's like right. It's like we have to go there because that has a meaning to it. And when you film it, it just makes sense. Even though it's not like the most beautiful space that you ever shoot. It's just a public
Doesn't matter.
space, but then it's just so right. When I was filming it, it's just so right. And I think that was something that say that, hey, I need to do more of this, like, hang out with them, having fun with them. And when we go for the real filming session, or maybe we can go towards the wedding day itself, they won't feel like awkward or just like out of space. So I think that really helps.
I like what you said too. If it just feels right, it's so true. It could be a really simple thing that you throw out there and say, "Hey, would you like to try this?" And most of the time, they're like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do it." And you get there and you're like, "Wow, this is so right. Like this just feels so good, and it's going to be so different than anything I've ever made." And that's what's so sustainable for me, because a lot of people tend to burn out of the wedding industry because the old adage, like the stereotypical thing is just like, I could never do that for years after years. It's the same thing over and over. And it's just, to me, it's not when you approach it the right way. When you find the nuance and the difference of each couple and each different story, it's different every single time. And it's really a matter of perspective. It's like you can choose to believe that it's the same thing every single time, but you're dealing with entirely different people every single time. And that changes the nuance every single time. And so really the point of empathy is just experience it through their perspective. How are they experiencing this day? Not how are you experiencing the day? Like, see it through their eyes and see what's important to them, and figure out even outside of the day then, if going to the food court is what's important to them, then you go to the food court and you make the most beautiful food court footage you possibly can make for them, and it feels right because it's them,
I have another question. Like I just suddenly thought of it. It's like if someone is hiring you for like a certain style of vibe, like maybe they have watched like Mark and Molly's one, and they say, I really want to replicate that. Maybe the tone of it is really what we want. But then back end, once you know their story and like their whole love story, you felt like it wasn't them, like it doesn't fit the mold. How would you actually repropose to them or like suggest the workflow of it?
Yeah, funny enough, one of my college friends actually asked Mike and I to photograph and film their elopement this past year. And they saw Mark and Molly's film and they wanted to sit in front of the fireplace. And honestly, I'm fine with it. Like, I have no problem with if they see something that they want to do as well. I don't think it's up to me to decide like what they want to do, I would go, because they straight up were just like, yeah, we saw that in your other film and we love that idea and we'd love to do it. It's not like I'm the first person who thought of sitting in front of a fireplace and talking to each other. That's a very normal thing a couple would do if they had a fireplace in front of them. So then I just start to think, okay, awesome, let's do that. And then how will I make it different for them, And so for that wedding, we brought in a constant light to light the scene a little bit more, just very dim over in the corner. Whereas Mark and Molly's was during the day. We shot this other one at night. And then they also made mention that they wanted the edit to be vertical instead of horizontal. And so we shot everything horizontal, but we had the frame lines on our monitor to go 9:16 vertical. And in that, Mike was on video the whole day, so he was just kind of struggling with everything had to be wide. Like every single shot had to be wide to fit them within the vertical box. But then we started to realize halfway through shooting portraits, like, oh, if you throw on the tilt shift lens, it almost looks as if you get bokeh in the same way a horizontal frame does. It starts to make the frame look more interesting vertically. So then he was shooting on the tilt shift a lot of the day after that. And so again, like having different approaches and just a little bit of nuance and difference can really change the outcome. And then it's something entirely different altogether. Because we did that thing, you know, we set up the lights, we did all that thing, and they sat in front of the fireplace. But as we were getting set up, Megan, the bride, like I knew this already about them. She had cancer. She has massive scars on her stomach because they had to remove part of her liver. And so she started talking about it before they were gonna read each other's letters in front of the fire. And I like capitalizing on those moments where I just start rolling. If they start talking, I just use my scratch audio and I start rolling. And she just opened up and she like lifted up her shirt and showed the scars and everything. And it's like I know I wanted to include that in the film, but that was just a really easy way for me to then have that narration be a part of the film as well. Again, just making it different. But the light was already set up, which we had intentionally set up on the scene for in front of the fire, but that light doubled as light for that candid moment as well. So you get all these moments that intersect when you have intentionality in different ways. And again, like I said, it just culminates in something that's entirely different than the other thing you made before. So like, don't be afraid to replicate things. Just think you're the creative. You know, it's like, let them experience it the way they want to, and then you be creative on how you want to make it different for them. And if it is exactly the same, honestly, who cares? Like if they're happy, that's really all that matters, you know? I think sometimes it's okay to just like die to your desire of wanting that thing for your portfolio to be different for the sake of being different. At the end of the day, like no one really cares. No one's evaluating your portfolio that deeply to go like, that's the same thing, you know, like no one cares.
Yeah, I think as a creative, I just felt like there's this strong urge to try to create very different things all the time. But then after like a whole year of filming weddings, you notice that there are some weddings it's just like meh, or like, you know, like maybe you have went to the same spot of the wedding film a year ago and you have created like the most amazing thing that you wanted to create. And once you reach the same spot again, it's just like, okay, what can we do? And I think that's where you really, as a creative, you have to challenge yourself to be able to create something that's really different, or at least try like to get something out of it, like to make it like another first experience again, to be able to create more impactful films. I think that's the real challenge there. Like, because to me, I really feel like I've been thrown in a situation where because Singapore is only this big, right? Like what I mentioned, like there's always these few hotspots in your city, to be able to film things like that. And there are always couples that say, hey, I actually like the one that is like that particular couple did, you know, maybe 6 months ago when you posted on Instagram, or I saw it on your website, you know, this particular, or maybe a few of my portfolio pieces. They say, hey, that's the one that resonated with me. I wanted to kind of do that. But to me, it's like, okay, we can replicate that, but deep in my heart, right, it's just like, your story is just like, it's just not there, but I'm just trying to figure out how can I like really serve them, because I really, when I brought the couples to that particular spot, it was really intentional. It was like, let's just try there, and I felt like the story could blend in very well. Mm-hmm. Just some stories just like we can't, but I think what you mentioned was good. Like a few more practical tips is like using different lenses, you know, instead of you shooting wide, shoot close-ups, tilt shift. Tilt shift was like one of the things that I learned from you. I'm like, I'm seriously still waiting for your tilt shift tutorial for videos because
Yeah.
I saw your tilt shift for photography. It was amazing, but I just felt like I'm still struggling to use tilt shift for videos, and when and how, and is there any creative ways that you could, you know, share? But that's just not for today's topic. I feel that that's more of a technical question. But
Sure.
yeah, we can share that after this podcast. But the last question I want to ask on today's podcast is, if you can redo your business once more, like let's just rewind back to 7 years ago, 6 years ago, whether it be for your business or for your craft, what would you do differently and why?
To give the cheesy answer, I wouldn't do anything differently because I absolutely love everything about what's happening right now. But to be more efficient, I definitely would have told myself to be more open to trying different techniques and being more open-minded to a more traditional approach to photography and filmmaking, because that traditional standard classic way of doing things, like there's a reason why so many people do it, is because it stands the test of time. And early on in my career, I really wanted to turn my creative voice into something that was so many other people's that were jumping on a bandwagon that was trendy. And so I found myself using trendy presets or not shooting with any constant or external light because I was, a natural light photographer, and that was the vibe I went for. And really that was just, a disguise of like, I don't know how to deal with lights and I don't want to learn. So I wish I would have listened to more people who knew more about those things and actually been more critical of myself and how specific I thought and narrow-minded I thought I had to shoot and be, and open my mind up to more creative people who did things more traditionally or did things that their work kind of stood the test of time with color and contrast and timelessness. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, because Mike kind of came into my life and bought a bunch of constant lights and said, hey, let's try to use this for this shoot or whatever. And then as soon as I did and I saw the softbox, and I was like, oh no, this looks amazing. Or Ben Chaish coming out with new presets, and they're like really solid, like true to life colors, and like his whole philosophy being, I want people to look back at these photos years and decades from now and not laugh at them, because I just want it to look consistent and how they experienced it. And I'm like, oh man, goodbye orange presets, okay, I want to go for that now more. I totally believe in that philosophy as well. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And I'm constantly learning that. Like I'm constantly not wanting to take the easy way out, the quickest way out, the way I know how to do things, instead of watching the 5-minute tutorial and just learning something new. That's always been a struggle for me, always continues to be a struggle for me. So as much as I'd be willing to tell myself 7 years ago that advice, I can constantly tell myself that, because I need to always hear it, and whatever's applicable now that I need to be doing in that way.
Nice. That's a really nice answer. I think from your learning experience, I can tell that you that will really speed up like a beginner's process. Like you will have more, I would say, palettes to choose from, like when you are creating, because you are actually equipping yourself with like different creative tools. The more you learn, you'll be able to expand it. So by the time you shoot, even if some of the things that I learned from weddings, I could actually apply on commercial, and I think that part
Absolutely.
can just keep switching back and forth. I think that's important. Like when I see you using like the aero, what's it called, the spray,
Oh, the atmospheric aerosol, yeah.
with the backlit, I think that was just like, and I use it for one of my couples, like I think last week. It was just like so much more magical that I would assume that it would be. And forcing myself, go all the way there just to try it. Like, I have to set up the lights, I have to kind of spray it, I have to apply it, rather than just go out for a shoot and just like, okay, that's done by, I intentionally get them back to my place and let's just try this particular shot. And when I use it, I was like, thank God I tried it. If not, it's just like a wasted moment where the couples are so open for it rather than, oh no, we got to go, But when they say, oh, they are free and just like, oh, let's just try, when they're so open for it, I feel that I should take the chance to, go all out and just try something out of the blue. And I got something that I was like so proud of, at least. Let's see whether I can share with you like a quick glimpse of
Yes.
it. Please be nice. I'm not a very good photographer, but yeah.
Stop. No, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, a little bit of the smoke. I feel that I could have yanked up more, a little bit of the smoke, but that was something that I got.
You can't beat it. The atmospheric aerosol just gives more dynamic range to the room. It just, you can start to see the shadow side of their face more because it's just illuminating more of the air, which is so cool.
I was like, oh, thank God I tried it. Thanks, Eric, for that. I think that was something that I will never forget. And actually, one more question before we end the podcast session today is like, for tips, any tips for up and coming creatives, figure out, maybe just figure out themselves as a freelancer or figure out themselves as a new business owner in the creative industry. What's that one tip that you would want to offer them?
This probably should have been my answer for the last question, because this is the more heartfelt one, and the thing I think is far more important. It's a stereotype that a lot of wedding educators will say this, but it is just so important. And I alluded to it earlier when I talked about that story, but finding your purpose in the craft is the thing that can sustain you through doing it for a long time. And so that whole idea of figuring out why you are creating what you are creating. Sorry, my dishwasher is making noise while I'm giving this TED talk. Really understanding your intention of why you're creating the imagery you are and how you're serving your clients is one of the most profound and poetic things you can do that makes it new all the time, every time. And seeing that perspective of empathy and them experiencing the thing you've done over and over and recognizing that is the most important thing, is just to serve them and make sure they're taken care of at the end of the day. That's just part of my why and what keeps me going. And so figure that out for yourself and what you want that strategy and that end goal to be.
Wow, that is really a strong why. I feel like everybody should figure out your own why. I think it's important. Like what you said, like you can easily get burned out within a year or two if you don't find out your why, especially in the wedding industry where your weekends is basically burnt out. Like it's just like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. After that, the weekdays that you're just busy editing. If you're chasing just for the money, you're just chasing for because wedding is really self-sustaining. You can able to self-sustain yourself with weddings. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're doing it for scaling it up, which is not the wrong way to do business, by the way. You could scale up your wedding business, but if you are doing it for that reason, then you really can't create meaningful, impactful films. That was something that I told myself and my wife, we can only get X amount of couples a year. Because if we take more than that, I just felt like the quality would drop in terms of the timing that you spend with them, with the couples, and the process that you adopt. Like we hang out, we chill with our couples. All these things takes time, and if we yank it up to 30 couples a year, it was just gonna be overflowing with quality issues, unable to execute certain things, or maybe we are just too tired to be able to catch up with the pace. I think that will automatically become a burnout for us. I think that was something that I learned last year. I hope this year I can balance my business in terms of the creative side and the wedding side, because we finally hit our goal. For us, we finally hit our 2021 goal, and we're just gonna stick with the couples that we had and really serve them wholeheartedly for this year. Yeah. So actually, this actually marks the end of the episode. Really nice though. Like really, thanks Eric for spending your time with us like this whole hour. Be able to share your ideas, share your thoughts and your creative process. I think I really learned a lot just with this hour session with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored that, and just so excited that we get to do stuff like this from literally opposite sides of the planet. That we get to like have a conversation with each other, having complete different life experiences, but being able to connect over this thing that we love. And I'm just really honored that first that you like support me in kind of the education stuff that I do and show up online and like make me feel valued in what I'm putting out into the world. And secondly, just that you would ask me to be a part of the thing that you're growing and bringing me along your journey of your creativity and your business. So I commend you, I applaud you, and I'm really excited for everything that you have going as well.
I think once flying is permit, and if I really go to Chicago, I'll definitely hit you up.
I'll happily have you at the studio and hang out, and you can have some deep dish pizza then.
Ooh, nice. Okay, amazing time, man. I'm not gonna hold you up. Like it's been an hour. Really nice to chat with you, and yeah, we can catch up soon and hope to see amazing work from you again.
Sounds good. Appreciate you, YC. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man, Eric. Okay, bye.
Have a good day. See ya.
Yeah, you too.